The sky bled violet. Winds howled across the icy plains of Norva 7, a planet wrapped in eternal winter. Snow hissed against the dome of the crashed transport ship, whispering promises of death to anything foolish enough to step outside. Inside, a lone girl huddled against the curved wall of the wreckage. Her name was Elira Cade, 15 years old, the only survivor of Transport 9 Theta, and utterly alone. She hadn't eaten in 2 days. The emergency rations were gone, the heat from the backup generator flickering, failing. Her breath fogged in front of her. Her fingers had turned an angry red, and the tips of her ears felt like they were splintering into shards of ice. She kept her eyes on the survival monitor. No signal. No life signs. No rescue. The only other thing in the wreck was a coat, a bulky, ugly relic stuffed into a cracked emergency locker. It didn't even look warm. It was stitched from a patchwork of old fabrics, faded and burned in spots, too large for her slender frame. But her thin jumpsuit had stopped insulating her days ago. With trembling hands, Elira pulled the coat from the locker. It felt heavier than it should. She wrapped it around herself, expecting a temporary reprieve from the cold, nothing more. But the moment the jacket's collar touched her neck, the world blinked. Literally blinked. 1 second she was sitting on freezing metal, shivering uncontrollably. The next she stood upright, warm air rushing over her face. The snow was gone. The light was different, brighter but without a source. Her breath caught in her throat. The wreck was no longer wrecked. She stood in what looked like a full, undamaged version of the transport ship's interior, but everything was subtly wrong. The walls pulsed faintly like living tissue. The floor felt soft under her boots. The hum of machinery sounded almost like breathing. "Elira Cade," a voice said gently. She turned. An older man stood before her. His body hazy, transparent. He wore a uniform, sleek and glowing faintly with a sigil she didn't recognize. A hand cradling a flame. What is this?" she asked. "This coat is an echo jacket," he replied. "It binds to extreme environmental trauma. When worn, it creates an adaptive quantum overlay. You are experiencing a memory embedded in the jacket's matrix." "I don't understand," she whispered. "You're safe for now. But the real world is still dying around you." "Then take me back," she cried. "I don't care about your memory." The man's image flickered. The echo jacket was made to protect, but it can also teach Elira. Each layer it holds is a story. And each story may offer something you need. Before she could respond, the room shimmered and dissolved. Now she was in a snow-covered village under twin moons. Structures made of translucent ice curved into the wind. People bustled through the cold like it didn't touch them, all of them wearing coats that glowed faintly, like hers. Her own jacket now pulsed with light, syncing with the memory around her. No one noticed her as she walked. She wasn't really here. A child approached an elder, handing over a broken tool. The elder didn't scold. He took the tool, whispered to it, and placed it inside his own jacket. The fabric rippled, absorbed the shape of the tool, and remade it, fully repaired. Elira's eyes widened. These coats weren't just clothes. They were repositories, archives, tools. The scene flickered again, then shifted. She stood now inside a burning city, smoke thick and choking. People screamed. Fire raged through the buildings. A young woman ran through the chaos, wearing the jacket. Elira followed, heart pounding. The woman found a child pinned beneath rubble. Without hesitation, she took off her jacket and wrapped it around the child. A dome of energy surged from the coat, shielding the child as fire swept over them. The woman burned. When the smoke cleared, the child was alive, sobbing but untouched. The jacket was still glowing. Then everything went dark. When Elira blinked again, she was back in the wreckage, her body pressed against the cold floor. But now the coat on her back thrummed with warmth. It was still far too big, but it felt alive, like it had chosen her. Outside, the storm had worsened. Snow and ice hammered the hull. Elira stood, her legs shaking but steady, and moved toward the manual hatch. "You're crazy," she muttered to herself. "You'll die out there." But the coat whispered otherwise. It was a quiet voice in her mind. Not words, more like intent. She stepped outside. The wind hit her like a wall. It would have knocked her down if the coat hadn't stiffened around her frame, anchoring her. Heat radiated from the lining, forming an invisible barrier. Her frostbitten hands no longer ached. Her vision, once blurred by snow blindness, now pierced the blizzard. The jacket wasn't just protecting her, it was enhancing her. To what? Hours passed, or maybe days. Time lost meaning in the storm. But eventually she saw it, a signal beacon half buried in snow, flashing weakly. She dug it out, hands steady now. The coat linked with it immediately, rerouting power from its matrix. A green light blinked. Distress signal, active. She collapsed beside the beacon, exhausted, but not afraid anymore. The jacket pulsed, and once again she was pulled into memory. This time it was different. She stood in a vast chamber deep underground. Machines hummed, walls covered in glowing text and blueprints. Dozens of people worked in silence, humans, aliens, hybrids. All wore different versions of the jacket. A woman with silver eyes turned toward Elira. She wasn't a ghost like the others. She saw Elira, really saw her. "You activated it," the woman said. "What is this place?" "The Forge," she replied. "Where the Echo jackets were born. Where we tried to save what was left. Of Earth. Of everything." She stepped forward and placed a hand on Elira's shoulder. Each jacket contains echoes of survival, entire lifetimes of knowledge, experience, sacrifice. They are not just protection, they are inheritance. You're the first new wearer in 100 years. Elira swallowed. What am I supposed to do? Live. Learn. Pass it on. The room vanished. When rescue arrived 3 days later, an automated drone shuttle guided by the beacon, they found her sitting calmly on the snowy ridge. The girl they lifted aboard was barely recognizable. Strong, alert, alive, and wearing the coat. Years passed. Elira Cade became a legend. She traveled across colony worlds, from desert outposts to radiation-blasted moons, always where the disasters were worst, the need greatest. The coat had changed her, made her more than human. It healed her faster, sharpened her senses, and occasionally, when she let it, it showed her new memories. Fills. Languages. Even empathy she hadn't known she lacked. She saved lives. She taught others. She found more jackets. Hidden caches buried for generations. She passed them on carefully to those who'd earned them. And each new wearer heard the same whispered call. Live. Learn. Pass it on. Until the cold wasn't so dangerous anymore. Until survival was no longer the exception. Until the future had hope again.